You ever have one of those neighbors who thinks they run the whole world just because they have a clipboard? Yeah, that was Karen. She showed up at our cabin one morning like she was delivering a presidential order, yelling something about an emergency inspection while waving that clipboard like it was Excalibur. And you know what the wildest part is? She picked the wrong front porch because standing behind that door, in her Mickey Mouse pajamas and fuzzy slippers, was my wife Elena, and Karen had no idea who she was about to mess with. Let me back up a sec. We live in this little cabin up in Pine Ridge, real peaceful, real quiet, until Karen showed up 6 months ago, declaring herself queen of the HOA. Started making up rules nobody had ever heard of, sending out fake violation notices like confetti, threatening foreclosure over things like unapproved bird feeders and unauthorized garden gnomes. I wish I were joking. She harassed us, and a whole bunch of our neighbors, just because she thought nobody would push back. And honestly, we almost didn't. I mean, you get hit with enough legal-sounding letters and aggressive notes taped to your door, it starts to wear on you. That fear, that second-guessing it builds. But not Elena. She was calm. Too calm. That morning, I was live streaming a repair project for some friends, just replacing some old boards my grandma had put in decades ago, when I heard Karen's heels crunching up our gravel path. Clipboard ready, blazer on, eyes wild with fake authority. She didn't even knock. I'm here for a safety inspection, she barked. You have 5 minutes or I start the foreclosure process. I froze. But Elena stepped right out onto the porch like it was just another day, coffee in one hand, court documents in the other, and this look on her face like she was about to teach someone a real good lesson. And man, if looks could issue subpoenas, Karen would have been cuffed right then and there. Interesting timing, Elena said, sipping her coffee like nothing was happening. I was just about to call you. Karen tried to hold her ground, rambling something about community safety, hazards, blah blah blah, but Elena wasn't hearing it. She put her mug down, pulled a folded document from her jacket, and said, without a warrant, this is trespassing. You need to leave. Karen's eyes narrowed. You don't know who you're dealing with, she snapped. I've run this community for years. People like you, people who don't respect the rules, are exactly the problem. And I swear, that moment. That's when something inside me snapped. My grandma built that cabin with her own hands after escaping East Germany. She worked 3 jobs to buy that land. Karen didn't get to talk about us like we were invaders. I stepped forward, voice shaking but loud. You don't get to erase my family's history because of a made-up rulebook. We belong here more than you ever will. Karen pulled out her phone. Fine. I'm calling the sheriff. You'll regret this. And Elena? She just smiled, reached into her jacket again, and held up a tiny USB drive. Perfect, she said. I've got something for them, too. About 10 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. Not 1, 2. And the moment Karen saw those lights, she squared her shoulders like she was finally going to win. She ran toward them, ranting about hostile residents and dangerous outsiders, but as soon as Detective Johnson stepped out of the second car, everything changed. He wasn't there for her. Elena handed him a sealed envelope. Detective, I'm Judge Elena Rivera. This is an arrest warrant for Karen Whitmore, fraud, extortion, identity theft. I've been working with the county prosecutor for months. That USB has everything you need. Karen's face went from red to pale like someone pulled the rug out from under her soul. No, she stammered, she can't do that. This is harassment. I know my rights. But Johnson wasn't having it. Miss Whitmore, you're under arrest. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Karen tried to backpedal, but it was too late. That clipboard of hers hit the ground before the cuffs did. And just as she was being loaded into the back of the car, Our neighbors started showing up one after another, carrying papers, screenshots, receipts. Turns out, Alena hadn't just been watching from the sidelines. She'd been building a case with 28 families, collecting evidence, connecting the dots. And here's the kicker: this wasn't just about our little mountain town. Turns out, Karen was part of a nationwide scam run by a shady company out of Vegas called Precision Community Management. They trained people like her to infiltrate HOAs, declare themselves in charge, and shake down residents who didn't know better. Alena had been working with the FBI under the radar the whole time. They called it Operation Clean Sweep. That morning, raids went down across 15 states. Over 60 arrests. $4.2 million recovered. And all of it started because my wife, recovering from a car accident, supposedly resting, decided she couldn't watch one more person get pushed around. The whole thing felt like a movie. There was even a scene where Detective Johnson opened Karen's trunk and found hundreds of blank violation notices she was planning to use on other neighborhoods. Training manuals, fake letterheads, business cards. It was all the evidence of a machine built on intimidation and greed. And I'll tell you what really got me when Mrs. Patel stepped forward, shaking but determined, and told the detective Karen had threatened to call immigration on her if she didn't pay a fine for planting sunflowers. She's been a U.S. citizen for 15 years. That moment. That was when I realized we weren't just protecting property. We were protecting dignity. So yeah, Alena and I turned part of our cabin into a justice hub, free legal help for folks dealing with HOA abuse. She got invited to speak before Congress. That video of Karen's arrest went viral. Millions of views. People from all over the country started reaching out, sharing their own Karen horror stories. And Karen. She ended up with a 12-year federal sentence. Restitution, fines, the whole works. But more importantly, her arrest kicked off something bigger: a conversation. A reckoning. A realization that the rules aren't always rooted in fairness, and sometimes the loudest person with a clipboard is just hiding behind fear and fraud. You know, my grandma used to tell me, don't ever let bad people take over good places. And watching Alena that morning, coffee in one hand, justice in the other, I knew we'd honor that promise. Now here's where I leave you with something to think about. Have you ever seen someone abuse power in your community? Someone who hides behind titles, fake rules, or threats to control others? Tell me in the comments. Let's start talking about it, because silence only helps the bullies. And maybe, just maybe, your story will be the spark that lights up someone else's justice.